Welcome, everyone. We'll begin the webinar on Bosch ADAS. Learn more about the Bosch DAS3000-1 Recalibration System. I'm Melissa Joles with RDA Impact. Mike Muller, Scott McKinney, Senior Product Managers for Bosch, and Mike Cunningham, Account Manager for Bosch, are your presenters today. The presentation will take approximately 45 minutes. We are recording it and we'll post it on our YouTube channel. If you have questions during the webinar, you can type them in the chat box at the bottom right of the screen, and they will be answered at the appropriate time in the presentation. Now I'll turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa, and thank you all for joining. Appreciate your time. I'm Mike Cunningham, the account manager for Medco through Bosch. Today we have Mike Muller and Scott McKinney and myself that will talk about the Bosch ADAS solution, the Bosch DAS3000, and speed, efficiency, and effectiveness of our unit. So we look forward to showing off what we have. So before we get into the DAS3000 unit, I just want to kind of do a quick overview of what Bosch has to offer as far as our product lineup of diagnostics. So on the top left, you can see our professional diagnostics line, our ADS tools from the 325 all the way up to the 625. These will work with ADAS and well, some of the tools will work with the ADAS units, others will not, depending on the price range and capability. We also offer flash reprogramming through our MasterTech 2, which does OE repair or OE reprogramming. We have a full line of heavy-duty diagnostics tools, from our battery testers to our heavy-duty code reader in the HTS 250, smoke machines, and then our full-fledged 3824A heavy-duty diagnostic tool. We also have, top right, our triage and accessories, anything from TPMS tools to circuit analyzers, multimeters, smoke machines, and battery testers. Then, of course, what everyone's here for today, the ADAS recalibrations in our DAS3000-1 in the bottom right. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike Muller now so we can get into the ADAS 101.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Muller, and I am the ADAS product manager here at Bosch. I've been with Bosch over 20 years, working on all different types of new technologies as they come into the marketplace, and ADAS is one of the newest. So advanced driver assistance systems is really about the situational awareness of the vehicle in its environment. The picture that we're showing on the screen shows multiple different types of sensors, whether it's radar or LiDAR in the future, cameras or ultrasonic sensors. These are all considered ADAS systems. So there are a lot of words out there that represent ADAS. So the different types of cruise controls and blind spot warning, automatic emergency braking, heads-up displays, all of these are part of ADAS. The challenge for the industry is there is no standard for industry terminology yet. So you might get confused out there in the marketplace by some of the auto companies marketing things like BLIF, blind spot information system. That's a marketing term from Ford, but the real terminology is about these things that the functions of these sensors do. So the forward collision warning and the backup cameras, the automatic emergency steering and braking. There is no standardization. I do work in the industry trying to find standards for cameras and radars, but right now there is no standard terminology. We'll be using the terminology that has been put out by the AAA and IIHS. I think that's the next slide. I'm sorry, there's three types of calibration. There's dynamic calibration. That's when you go out on a test drive after you've replaced a sensor or replaced a windshield. Then there's the static calibration, and that's what we're going to show you here today, the type where you need targets and predefined targets for the calibration. And then there are a handful of car companies which require you to do both an in-garage static calibration or in-shop static calibration, and then a dynamic drive portion of the calibration to complete it. And of course, our solution does all three. So this is the slide I was talking about here. You don't have to read it. There's a lot on here. But in the past, so ADAS has been around more than 10 years on luxury vehicles. ADAS is a convenience feature, right? So it makes it driving in rush hour traffic for automatic cruise control very easy. It also helps you put you back in your lane. These have all been nice to have features, but coming up very shortly here by the end of 2022 next year, There will be a standard for automatic emergency braking. 99% of the car companies, even though there's no legislation yet, they have decided that they will put automatic emergency braking standard on their vehicles. So like in the past when we had airbags and you could turn the airbag off, today you can turn the ADAS features off. But in the very near future, these are safety critical topics as far as making sure that the calibrations are done precisely and accurately in the repair shop, so that when these automatic emergency braking systems must work and be returned back to their manufacturing standard. Bosch keeps track of all these things, and we understand what goes on in the industry as the #1 tier 1 in the auto industry for the sensors. So one of our little points of pride here, you know, Bosch started making ADAS sensors in the 1990s for some Volvos and BMWs. In 2011, we displayed our very first autonomous vehicle, where we, as the #1 tier 1 of the radars and cameras, the ultrasonics, we created a car to show the other car companies that you could actually, you know, create an autonomous vehicle. So we have the most patents in the autonomous vehicle space. That's one of our core competencies, is that Bosch does not just the aftermarket workshop equipment, but we also make the cameras and radars that go on the vehicles, and we're known for that. So why Bosch, right? Look, we've been doing these calibrations for almost 10 years now. We've got millions of calibrations under our belt. We understand every OEM does things a little bit different. We've figured out how to simplify the setup into just a couple of core 3 or 4 procedures. We know that speed and efficiency is the most important thing in your garage, in your shop, for your return on investment. So we've lowered the labor time on most of all of the OEM service procedures. We've done that with precision and confidence, knowing that it comes from Bosch. We've designed our product for the future, and we'll show you a few things live here about how we design for the future. Because we've been doing this for more than 10 years, we understand what's coming down the road, and we've designed our solution that it's adaptable for the future technologies. We have an integrated storage so that everything is all in one place, the right tool at the right place to do the job. Again, I don't want to continue on, but we've actually done these OEM sensors from the beginning. We make all the sensors that go on the cars. And of course, we provide an enhanced technical support line for ADAS, and we can do some virtual training as we proceed here. So a little bit about the product. So what you'll see on the right-hand side is the fixture with the green arrows, and they're pointing to 2 markers on the car. The marker is a distance marker in the front axle, and a thrust angle approximation and distance marker on the rear axle. So really what we're doing is we've gotten rid of the plumb bobs and tape measures, strings and tape for the floor for these front-facing camera and front-facing radar calibrations, the things that take a lot of time. So we've simplified the setup by measuring these distances and these thrust angles digitally and electronically. So it's designed for not just now, but for the future. And we can record these data values. A very important part of it is to be able to provide proof to the insurance companies that the calibration was set up properly. So with our scan tool, it's really a scan tool first, right? So you have to do your pre-scan and your post-scan. But if you have to do any other resets, from seat recalibrations to steering angle resets, all those things are in the tool initially as designed. On top of that, it's an ADAS tool, right? So we connect these cameras of the last slide that I showed to the ADS625. What we've done is we have a step-by-step procedure that steps the technicians through the service procedure. We've taken all of the different OEM service procedures and whittled it down to the bare minimum, the basics that's required in order to do the setup. We show you what equipment you need on slide #1. We show you the actual environment on the upper right-hand slide. And then what's unique to Bosch is we've gamified the solution. So setting up the distance and the angle and the side-to-side measurement, the numbers are on the screen, but you don't need the numbers. We've put all that in the background and replaced it with a gamified user interface to make it very quick and easy for the technicians to do the setup for the calibrations. One of the things that we're proud of is that we do everything by the book, right? So Bosch licenses all of the OEM information. Even though on our tier 1 side of the business, we work with the OEMs, we've decided to license, we've not decided, we only will license the information to put it into the scan tool for all of the different service procedures. We don't just license it and put it in the tool, we validate it. Every single vehicle, every single procedure, before we publish it as part of the content, we validate that it's the proper one and that it works. Another part of the solution is a radar reflector. So this is for the Asian car companies. It's a conical radar reflector. It's used specifically for front facing and the blind spot. We've made one tool instead of having 5 different OEM tools. So the cone is the same for each OEM. We've designed it such that it works for all 5 of the OEMs. So one of the very unique features of our solution, on the left-hand side, the horizontally mounted target is actually used to calibrate the camera. That's a Volkswagen Group target. On the right-hand side, you'll see that that same target is mounted vertically. Well, unbeknownst to the typical user, behind the front of the target where you see the image and you have the scratch-resistant layer and the UV-resistant layer, there's a very, very thin, very flat metal plate that's used for the front-facing radar for the other car companies that don't use the conical radar reflector. So again, Bosch, designing for the future, designing for simplicity. This is a multi-use target, not just for camera, but also for radar, reduces the number of components that are needed in order to have in your shop to do the calibrations. There are a grouping of the targets that are required for the different OEMs. Bosch knows all of these very well. These targets are all stored on the unit. We can get into the details of each of the targets later on, but we provide all the targets needed to do the majority of the vehicles. We don't do the exotics, right? We're not talking about the Bentleys and the Lamborghinis, but we do everything else, right? All of the North American vehicles. This is how the targets are stored in the unit. Everything is on board, so you'll see the scan tool tablet shelf there. All the targets are integrated. There's actually a legend also to show you where the targets are. Not only are they labeled with their part number and their OEM, but they also each have their place in the storage container so that everything is in one place. You don't have to go searching around the shop for all the different parts and pieces. There are some floor mats that are included for the surround view.
All right, thanks, Mike. This is Scott McKinney. I'll take over here from here just real quick. Talk about some of the virtual training that's offered with the DAS3000. So one thing we know that with ADAS recalibrations that it's somewhat of a new technology. People are not really familiar yet with some of the procedures. So that's why we really wanted to put together a program in along with the system to give some training to shops as they purchase this equipment. So in along with the DAS3000, after you've registered it, you'll automatically get an email that will give you links to upcoming training events that will go through several different topics from everything from sort of ADAS 101 into an overview of the equipment and some common ADAS configuration setups. We'll go over some of the care and maintenance, and then obviously a Q&A session available as well. The team that teaches this is our technical services team. They're well versed in ADAS. They have a lot of experience with ADAS systems and with our DAS3000. Then these sessions will be recorded and then accessible to users after the training session. And then in addition to that as well, we know, again, as I mentioned before, ADAS systems are somewhat new and unfamiliar to shops. That's why we're also offering an enhanced technical support hotline. This technical support hotline not only covers the hardware and software of the system, but also is able to help with troubleshooting and technical issues related to ADAS calibrations. Again, this is the same team that's teaching some of the training portion. Well versed in ADAS, they have a lot of experience. Some of the team members have been doing mobile ADAS calibrations in the past, and that team is available through our technical support hotline. Just a quick slide here on some of the logistics of packaging. I know this is a lot of different pieces that come with the equipment. We want to give everyone kind of a heads up as to how it will arrive. The first pallet contains the DAS3000 fixture. And what we've done is we've designed a pallet that actually makes it very easy to unload off the pallet. There's no need to any kind of heavy lifting to pick it up off the pallet. There's two onboard ramps that are built into the pallet that help the user roll the equipment down off the pallet. The second pallet then contains all of the radar camera kits, or the radar targets, the camera kit, all the camera targets, the surround view floor mats, and the ADAS625 scan tool. And then one more quick slide here from me here is talking about the facility recommendations. I know this is a common question that we get asked quite a bit. What are the space recommendations? What are the size dimensions that are required for ADAS calibration? So we've really identified three different space recommendations for ADAS calibration. We have a minimum space requirement, or minimum space recommendation of 34 feet by 25 feet. And that will get you a good majority of the vehicles. It's not going to get you everything, but the most common ADAS calibration features can be calibrated in that space. You may need to move the vehicle, in and around that space a little bit, but it should be able to accommodate most of the common, front radar, front camera calibrations. Then we have our recommended space. This is a 40 by 30 amount of space. Again, this is a little bit bigger. As these spaces get larger, there's fewer and fewer shops that have this type of space available. But in that 40 by 30 foot space, again, you'll be able to fit most calibrations, even some of the larger vehicles in that space. You may need to move the vehicle in and around that space a little bit to accommodate some of the side cameras or the rear backup camera or rear radars, rear radar systems. And then we have our optimally flexible space, which is 60 by 40, which is probably not really accessible to most shops that are currently in use right now. This space is probably more for a shop that's looking to build a dedicated ADAS space or a dedicated ADAS building. But this is a space that you'll be able to calibrate nearly everything. I say nearly just because there's always obviously new systems that are coming out, but it's going to accommodate even the larger vehicles with minimal need to move the vehicle around in that space. And then there's the requirement for floor levelness. We recommend a floor levelness of 10 millimeters across the calibration space. Lighting, should be evenly diffused and distributed. Really avoiding direct sunlight. Blocking out any kind of windows to avoid that sunlight coming in and affecting the calibration as it's happening. And then lastly, the background and surrounding areas should be, really a neutral color. Avoid any kind of checkered flags. A lot of times, shops will have checkered flags up for racing trophies, things like that. Make sure those are not visible during the calibration. Those patterns, obviously, we've seen some of the target patterns here. They're very similar to that checker pattern, so we want to try to avoid that during calibration. And then again, making sure to avoid that there's any kind of vehicles or tools or equipment in the area. Again, if anyone's walking through the area during the calibration, make sure they're staying out of the way during that calibration event.
Thanks, Scott, for that. This is Mike Cunningham talking about what comes in the master kit. So the SKU number is the DAS3000-1. You see here the published list price about $28,000, and the complete ADAS kit includes the DAS3000 fixture, the dual-purpose VW camera radar board, the camera target kit, including the Subaru targets, the SCT-815 radar reflector, the surround view floor mat targets, as well as the ADAS625 scan tool with the ADAS recalibration software. And as Scott had previously mentioned, the training and enhanced support is included with that, with the option to continue that as long as needed. With that being said, the only scan tool in our portfolio that the ADAS solution works with is the ADAS625. Also wanted to touch on a program that is being run through Medco that is launching here in the next few days. So this is available to end users that purchase the DAS3000 through Medco. It is a 12-month interest-free financing program. Basically, the QR code below, the end user is able to scan that, and it will take them to a link through the financing company, which then in turn will approve the financing, and everyone gets paid, and the end user then is making the payments on the unit for the next 12 months. Also, a big piece of what makes Bosch Bosch is our best-in-class field support. So these guys and girls that you see on your screen here are located all across the country, and they are there for you guys. They're there to help answer questions, help with training and support, help with customer presentations. Basically, they're there for you guys. They're, if you don't know who they are in your area, please reach out, please introduce yourself. Please get to know these guys, as they're a key asset, and they're here to help with ADAS, help with any questions, customer questions, anything like that. So please get familiar with your local rep and reach out as necessary. Do we have any questions, Melissa?
No, we don't right now.
Okay, if we want to now switch over to Scott McKinney.
Okay.
Hello, this is Mike Muller. I'm the product manager that was speaking for the majority of the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to spend about 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it takes here, to go over some of the features of the solution that we have, the DAS3000. So here's the actual solution. And as I mentioned, the 2 cameras are on either side of this crossbar that are looking.
All right, sorry about that, everyone. We had a quick small audio technical glitch, so we had to reset here. So as Mike was mentioning, we've got on the DAS3000 fixture, we've got our 2 cameras that are in both of these on both sides of the crossbar here. And those are what we're using to measure the distance to the vehicle, both to either to the front axle or to the approximate thrust angle. As you see here, we've got our VW target in this position. In the horizontal position here, we have it as a camera target. If we move it into the vertical position, it acts as our radar target for flat panel radar.
Scott, if you move that over, I'll take back over here. Okay. Hopefully I won't lose connectivity. Part of the solution is also this bumper plate. So the 0 position is always needed for the reference. So many of the calibrations require you to find the 0 position. You're bringing up the whole DAS3000 to the bumper, and then measuring the 0 and moving away from there. A couple of the other features here are a very unique feature is that this is really made like an erector set. So all of these different devices that you see on here are all flexible and movable for the future, so that we can add new things to it. Like in the future, we'll actually put a LiDAR board on here, which will be much longer. They're about 10 feet long from the OEMs. That's not our choice, that's theirs. But we've created this erector set style of functionality so that we can remove and replace and add things as the new technologies come out. Another feature here is that we actually can change the floor level, the floor distance. So if you're on a lift or if you're on an aligner, you can actually change the reference point from the 0 position of the floor by up to 12 inches, and that measurement is on the back of the tool here. Another feature is our unique mounted camera bar. So this bar right here has 2 magnets on it and a clamp, a measurement scale, and a bubble level. This simply mounts, and there's no driving this bar up and down. All you have to do is move it up and down a lot, or you just move it ever so slightly to the measurement scale here. So it's made to be very flexible and easy to use, right? So that's some of the features on the front here. I think I'll turn the product around and show that we have a couple of integral storage areas. So we have an area to store all of the extra clamps or all of the brackets that are needed. The scan tool mounts simply to the platform here, and then the USB cables, there are 2 USB cables that are driven through the crossbar and into the back here. We have a USB splitter that actually puts both cameras directly into the back of the scan tool. Another feature that you see here is the pitch adjustment. So the major pitch adjustment goes forward by 1.5 degrees, backward by 1.5 degrees. And then this in the middle, you can actually do all the fine tuning to this bubble level here for the actual calibration setup. Again, another feature is that everything is on board. So all of the different targets are here in the target box. There's also a full menu or legend of all of the targets, all of their uses for which car companies, and then in the back, there's all of the service parts, replacement parts as needed. The other things that is stored right on the unit are the wheel clamps. So there are 2 wheel clamps included. This is one of them, and here's the other one. Already has the distance marker and the thrust angle marker on it. So these are stored on the tool here. You simply take off the targets, put them into their storage container, and then mount the clamps back onto the tool. Sorry, I'm getting tangled up in my cable here. Another feature I didn't talk about is, as we're going to see in the video, once you start maneuvering and manipulating the DAS3000, there'll be a point where the software will ask you to secure it to the ground. There are these 2 very strong brakes on either side that are used to secure it to the ground, and it's not going to go anywhere now. So that's one of the actual functions and features of the product. Scott, was there anything else kind of as an overview for the DAS3000? I think I hit all the high points. Yep. So what we have also are the conical radar reflector. So the conical radar reflector used for all of the different Asian car companies. It has an adapter that's used for the setup, and it uses a Bosch distance laser to measure the distance to the vehicle. And then it also is used to measure the height of the this SET815. And the way that works is that you'll be looking at the distance laser, and you'll just simply move the fixture up or down. There's also a Bosch centerline laser on the very front. I'm not going to turn it on to go through this. So all of this is self-contained for heights, widths, and then also on the ground here.
The only last thing we have before we jump into the calibration video is talking about the floor mats here. This here is for the Mitsubishi. As we mentioned before, there's about 5 different calibration mats that come with the kit. All of these are made of a canvas material. They're made to really kind of rough and ready for the shop environment. Obviously, we want to try to avoid any kind of walking across and things like that, but they're really designed to be shop ready and tough and sturdy. I think that was the last thing I think we had, Mike. I think from this point, we were able to jump now into the calibration video.
Hi, my name is Scott McKinney. I'm the product marketing manager here at Bosch for our ADAS recalibration equipment. Today I'd like to take you through a recalibration of a front-facing camera on this 2019 Toyota CHV. We've already got our VCI plugged in, so let's go ahead and get started. Today we'll be using our ADAS625 scan tool to walk us through the calibration procedure. So the first thing we're going to do is select our ADAS calibration, then we'll auto ID the vehicle. We'll confirm that it's an XLE. We'll cycle our ignition, and we'll select front-facing camera. We've got an OEM warning here, letting us know we may need to cycle the key as we move through the calibration process. This first screen here will give us all the equipment that we need for this front-facing camera calibration. We'll be using the DAS3000 fixture, the alignment marker wheel clamps, our Toyota set number 3 target board, and our bumper contact plate. This screen here lets us know that we need to position the fixture in front of the vehicle and make sure the scan tool is set on the platform and connected to the USB.
Now we've got two different options. One is a skip option that will let us jump right to the fixture positioning, or we can select continue to give us a step-by-step instructions with OE recommendations. Recalibration needs to be performed when an ECU or camera is replaced, a windshield has been replaced, there's a DTC present, or an alignment or suspension work has been performed. These required preconditions come from the OE procedures. The vehicle must be on a level surface, the vehicle must be properly aligned with correct tire size and recommended tire pressure. All fluid should be topped off, including the fuel tank. Make sure that no one is in the vehicle, remove all cargo from the vehicle, make sure no objects are in front of the target boards or in front of the vehicle, and eliminate any extra ambient lighting. This screen gives us an overview of the steps we'll take to set up our fixture for recalibration. First, we'll attach our wheel clamps and alignment markers. Next, we'll move into vision positioning. Then we'll set our target board pitch, adjust our target height, level our crossbar, and lastly, install our target boards before performing the calibration. On the right side of the screen here, you'll see that we have an outline of the area in front of the vehicle that should be free of objects. Before we move into the vision positioning, we'll need to attach our wheel clamps and alignment markers.
Our alignment markers are stored conveniently in our target storage box, and our wheel clamps are conveniently on the side of the DAS3000 fixture.
This next screen opens the vision positioning feature on the ADAS recalibration software. It gives us our required distance from the vehicle, which is 1,386 millimeters. We'll select continue. And it's going to let us know to attach our wheel clamps and make sure we attach our contact plate.
Now that our bumper contact plate is in position, we move the fixture up to the front of the vehicle and make contact without causing any damage to the front bumper.
Now that we've made contact with the front bumper, we've established our 0 point for our measurement. Look at the screen here. We see we've got our distance, our left and right measurement, and there's a bit of an angle that you can see here in this image. We'll need to move this shadow bar to this drop zone area here.
As we move the fixture, you can see on the screen that it starts to guide us in the correct position.
Once we're in position, the icons will turn green.
We can now set our brakes. And remove our contact plate. Now that we've set our distance, we can now adjust our pitch. Our pitch is adjusted using this pitch adjustment tool. There are 3 gross adjustments, 1 forward, 1 back, and 1 in the center. And this dial here for minor adjustments. We'll know that where our pitch is set when the bubble is in the center of the level. We'll now set our target bar, which is conveniently stored on the side of the DAS3000. It's attached to the fixture using these 2 magnets. We'll set our height to 135 centimeters using the left side ruler. We'll ensure that it's level using the bubble level on the right side. The next step is to install our target board. The target board will sit on this magnetic carrier, which has a D10 that tells us where the center is. The target board is attached to the carrier via magnets and a pin and socket attachment to ensure the correct orientation. A safety clip is included to ensure that the target doesn't fall off on accident.
We'll now remove the scan tool from the platform and disconnect the USB cable. Now that we're positioned behind the vehicle's camera, we can continue on with the calibration. On the next screen, we'll see the adjustment data that's currently stored in the ECU. We'll need to verify and ensure that those values match the repair manual. All of our values match. Now we'll verify that the target is in the very center of the fixture. As I mentioned before, there's a D10, so we know that's in the very center. We'll select continue to proceed. The calibration is in process. Next, we're going to position the target on the left side at 55 centimeters. Along the top of the camera bar is a ruler and a dial indicator. So we know where to place it right at 55 centimeters. Step back behind the camera again. We'll select continue, and calibration will start in process for the left side. Now, we're going to do the same thing for the right side. We'll now select continue. Calibrate the right side. We'll need to now cycle the engine, so we'll need to switch the ignition off. Continue. We'll leave it off for 10 seconds. We'll turn our ignition back on. Continue. Camera aiming is successfully completed. We'll screenshot that for our records.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple here. The first one is, do you have a list of which OTC Bosch Diagnostics scan tools the ADAS system will work with?
Yep, so we do. Currently, the DAS3000 system works with the Bosch ADS625. That part number is 3970.
Okay. Let's see if we have any else. Okay, another one is
one quick thing to that too. So right now, as Mike had mentioned, the DAS3000 works with the 625. Yeah, sorry. The ADS625 comes with the kit, the DAS3000-1 kit. So that's a full package system.
okay. Another question, will the ADAS fixture work with OE software?
So I'll take that one. This is Mike Muller. So absolutely, the equipment is precision measurement equipment as far as the cameras, the camera targets and the radar targets. You would need to have the OEM scan tool with the OEM software, and then you'd also have to have the OEM service procedure. So one of the benefits of the complete package from Bosch with the ADS625 is that we've simplified the OEM service procedures and have the step-by-step guided information on what to do. However, it will work with the OEM software if you purchase just the hardware. And there is a second part number for that. I think you saw that it was DAS3000, and it's the -2, which has no scan tool associated with it. So again, yes, the answer is yes, it works with OEM software, but the preferred method, of course, because of the simplification, the benefits of the step-by-step guided procedure, which reduces your labor time and increases your efficiency compared to the OEM service procedure, is to use the Bosch ADS625 scan tool with all the smarts we've put into it.
Okay. Another question is, approximately how long does it take to set up and do the calibration?
Yep, so I'll continue on with that discussion here. So For those of you that have done the calibrations, you know that some of the procedures are very tedious, using the strings and the plumb bobs and the tape measures, the markings on the floor. My favorite is the Toyota service procedure, which requires you to wrap a string on a stick and throw it underneath the car and thread it through the 2 tow hooks to find the center line of the vehicle. That's too much bending over and stretching for this old guy. So what we've done is we've simplified the service procedures, still keeping the intent of the OEM procedure to measure the distance, the height, the width, the pitch, the roll, and the yaw. So the setup time is roughly anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, with a couple of minutes to do the calibration. So we've benchmarked that the majority of the front-facing calibrations for radar and camera take somewhere around 6 to 7 minutes. A couple take a little bit longer, a couple will take a little bit shorter. But compared to the OEM procedures, which are about 20 minutes to 45 minutes to do the initial setup, we've reduced the labor time of doing a calibration significantly. And that's because we've learned along the way that we can make the measurements digitally and don't need all that mechanical actual measurements that were done previously with tape measures and strings and all those floor markings.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more here. What other shot requirements do I need to consider besides space, like lighting, floor level reflections, and wall patterns?
Yes. So as I showed on the slide, the space requirements are the big thing that usually gets asked. The space requirement, the minimum space from 34 by 20 up into the 60 by 40 space for the dedicated ADAS area that's put up there. The other thing that the floor levelness, that's one that comes in question that comes in quite frequently. We're recommending a 10 millimeter difference across the calibration space. So if it's a front-facing camera, so from where the fixture is going to sit to the rear of the vehicle, that should be no more than 10 millimeters. And the way that can be measured is, putting you're just using a string and 2 sticks. You can really easily find out the levelness of the floor that way. Just setting up, putting a bubble level on the line and measuring the distance, or measuring the difference in distance at both ends. The other thing is lighting, right? So making sure that the lighting is evenly in diffuse, even in diffuse lighting throughout the shop. No direct spotlights anywhere in the calibration area that's being calibrated. Making sure that the sunlight is avoided. If there's any kind of windows, make sure those are blocked off. Avoiding that sunlight that's coming in during the calibration. And then making sure that the background areas are sort of a neutral color. You want to avoid any kind of patterns. Checkered flags that are usually hung up in shops a lot of times, and make sure those are not visible during the calibration procedure. And then making sure that things like metal toolboxes and equipment that's from the shop, make sure that's cleared out of the area that's required for calibration. Especially when you're doing radar calibrations, that those metal toolboxes can really give a false signal back to the vehicle as it's doing the calibration procedure.
Okay. It's obviously important to maintain battery voltage. I also understand that the hood must remain closed. How are you maintaining battery voltage?
Right, so it is important that the battery voltage is maintained, because some of the calibrations, like I said earlier, can take 45 minutes to an hour to do the setup process. But with our reduced labor time to 5 to 7 minutes or so, maintaining the battery voltage, of course, is still important. But because the calibrations can be done quicker, not every single vehicle has to have a battery maintainer on it while it's going through the calibration. That said, the question is correct. It must remain closed. It does not have to remain all the way closed. It can be in the latched position, such that the hood is down, but there's that 1 or 2 or 3 inch gap still, allowing for the battery cables to be exiting the engine compartment. Right now, we do recognize this as an issue, and I mean, it's not something that's currently available, but low-profile battery clamps, if you can find a battery maintainer with that, Bosch will have one sometime in the future here, specifically for maintaining the battery during an ADAS calibration, because we do see more and more calibrations. And as the cars age and as their batteries age, they will need this battery maintainer on the vehicle during the calibration. So you are correct, whoever wrote the question. So
Okay,
hope that answers the question.
it does. I don't see any other questions. I will follow up with everybody on today's call with a copy of the presentation and the flyer with the financing information, and the follow-up contact information for the presenters today. I don't see any more questions, so that'll conclude the webinar. Thank you guys so much. You did an excellent job. We really appreciate your time today, and thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll be in touch with future training opportunities.